Right, here we go. Hello, and welcome to this very special program. My name is Meredith with the Cedar Rapids Public Library, and with us today is the head witch from K Apothecary. This is Andrea. She happens to be one of my favorite people in the entire world. And I have the good fortune of living in Mount Vernon, and I have met Andrea through shopping uptown and being in my city. And one of the things that I have found really helpful for me and really remarkable, especially during the last year, is finding the apothecary and understanding the ways that a modern witch lives in the world and how kind of coming into tune with the world around me and being mindful in my daily practices, whether it's like chopping vegetables or making tea, has really contributed to my personal well-being. And I think that your gifts need to be shared with the world. So, all of you beautiful patrons out there, I have invited Andrea here today to talk a little bit about what it means to be a modern witch. And so, without further ado, Andrea, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great intro. Thank you so much. You are also one of my favorite people in the world. So, my name's Andrea, head witch at K Apothecary, and what do I do? Oh my gosh, I do so many things. What's my favorite thing to do? My favorite thing is to talk with people about their practices, like you were just talking about, your daily practices, your yearly practices, whatever that might be, in terms of modern witchcraft and how we can utilize modern witchcraft to tune into those cycles of the earth to really bring a deeper mindfulness to our lives and kind of like stepping out of that time as a linear kind of thing and more into that liminal space of what time really means. And one of the questions that I get a lot when folks come into this shop is, what does it mean to be a witch? And what does that look like? And I think the most beautiful aspect of the answer to that question is that it's different for every single person. And that's really the beauty and the complexity and the inclusivity of what it means to be a modern witch. But when you think about like, what does it really mean to be a modern witch? Stepping into that space again of noticing time as a different type of thing. And for witches, that typically means looking at the wheel of the year and what that means to practice the wheel of the year and utilizing the wheel of the year to step into that mindful space. And through those practices and those celebrations, as we go through the wheel of the year, harnessing the energies of the universe to bring about positive change within our own lives, to learn more about ourselves, more about those people who are around us, and kind of our path that we're taking through this lifetime. And that's really kind of it in a nutshell, a really small nutshell that's actually like the size of the universe because there's so much that goes into it. I mean, sometimes, when people think about what it means to be a witch, they conjure up ideas in their mind of bubbling cauldrons and circles of naked folks dancing in the forest and black hats. And those things can all be true of what it means to be a witch, but that's really kind of like the story that's been crafted for us by modern culture, modern pulp culture and movies and things like that. And so while it's true that witches cast spells and brew potions and come together, it's much different and less theatrical than kind of what we picture in our minds, because it really does look more like following the cycles of the earth, following the cycles of the moon, following those types of things that are in that liminal space that can't really have a date set to them, right? So this is more like the farmer's almanac kind of way of going through time, as opposed to following the calendar and like Hallmark holidays, so to speak. So if it's okay with you, I'd really love to talk about the Wheel of the Year a little bit and mention like each different Sabbath and kind of like what that means. Is it okay to go into that?
Absolutely, please do.
Okay. So I have a little cheat sheet here so I don't miss anything because I have Gemini rising, so I get a little bit chatty and can get off the mark a little bit. So I'm just going to follow these points here so I don't miss any of them because they're all so important. So when we think about the wheel of the year, it is split up into sections, and each of those sections is a different Sabbath and a different time to celebrate. So the first Sabbath is actually Samhain, which is spelled Samhain, and it can be very difficult to know how to pronounce that, and also so many different ways to pronounce it, whether it's the Gaelic tradition to pronounce it or the Irish or whatever. So we pronounce it Samhain here at the Apothecary. And this is also known as the Witch's New Year. So this is the time when we, loosen up our strings and get a little bit free with ourselves. And this is celebrated during October. So this is more traditionally known as Halloween. And during the Sabbath of Samhain, as a witch and a pagan, we tend to honor our ancestors a lot during that time. This is when they talk about the veil being the thinnest. And so it might be when folks want to try to communicate with their dead ancestors or past loved ones. So that can be like the divination side of what Samhain is all about. But from a more practical and physical side, Samhain is the end of harvest season. So this is when we are reaping everything to put up for storage to get through the winter. And that can be physical, like through our gardens and things like that. And also can be metaphysical, like what types of things do we want to start thinking about and working on internally as we go through the winter. It can also be what's my book list for the winter? What am I going to read throughout this winter season, and have those things kind of like at hand. So after we move through the Samhain Sabbath, then we go into Yule, and this is also known as winter solstice. And this is typically around December 20th to 25th. And I say typically because it just depends on the cycles of the year and kind of where the moon is at. And so that is always changing. So it's kind of a flexible thing. And when we think about Yule and any celebration of solstice as we go through all of the different Sabbaths, we're celebrating the balance of light and dark. This is that time when day and night are the same length. And so that's one of the things that's celebrated. And also, it's Christmas time. So we also do more traditional Christmas things and give gifts and celebrate that way and gather together. So then the next one that we move into is called Imbolc or Candlemas. And this is also known as St. Bridget's Day. So that can be a more traditional way for people to kind of wrap their heads around that. And this is at the beginning of February 1st or 2nd. And this is that date when we celebrate the moments of spring. So typically here, everything is still frozen, but underneath of the earth, there's things moving and getting ready to grow. And oh my gosh, there's a delivery person. So my dog is now going to lose his marbles. Prepare yourselves for that. Okay, so a little bit more about that is the celebrating that stirring of the earth, preparing to come out of winter hibernation and kind of move into that more energetic type of energy as we go into spring, which brings us to Ostera or the spring equinox. And that's like March 20th-ish type dates. And this is another opportunity to celebrate balance, celebrate that balance of light and dark. And it's that time of year when we are planting seeds, both metaphorically and physically, as we're working towards starting seeds inside of our house for things that we're going to plant outside. And we also might start thinking about what things we want to work on with ourselves throughout this more active time of the year as we enter into the time of light. And it's that time when we kind of shed that the heaviness of winter and really step into that time of the lightness. And that brings us to Beltane, which is more like you can think about that as May Day, so May baskets and things like that. And the Beltane celebration is all about the celebration of fertility and things really starting to come to life around us. Trees in full bloom, flowers in full bloom, all of that kind of thing, and celebrating stepping into that sense and feeling of abundance. And really, it's a joyful time. We've made it through the darkness of winter. We've made it through everything sprouting and growing, and now we're just kind of celebrating the greenness and the full color of the earth around us. And then the next one is called Litha, also known as summer solstice. And again, celebrating that time of balance of light and dark. And this is that time of year when the sun reaches its peak. So our days are the longest at this point, and really just honoring that, honoring the sun, and really basking in the glory of sunshine. And the height of summertime is really what the celebration of the summer solstice in Litha is all about. And that's June 20th to 22nd-ish. And then we move into Luansa or Lammas, which is August 1st. And this is the first harvest, the celebration of the first time that we're reaping the benefits of the fertility of Mother Earth. And so we're picking things out of our garden and preparing fresh dishes and things like that. And those are really wonderful ways to physically celebrate that, the bounty of what Mother Earth has provided for us. And that flows right into the second harvest, which is known as Mabon or the autumn equinox. And so again, we come back to that celebration of balance, of light and dark, of inner and outer practices and all that type of thing. And this is the second harvest. So this is that time during September when we're really like, the final batches and things of growing out of our gardens. And so we're reaping all of those things and getting ready to put those up and prepare them for the winter time. And this Sabbath can also be known as the Witches' Thanksgiving, when we prepare big meals and we gather together and we really celebrate the abundance of what Mother Earth has provided for us. And so that brings us back again to Samhain and the final harvest and October and the most wonderful time of the year. So as we move through all of those different Sabbaths, and the examples that I gave just now are more of those physical aspects of it, and being able to step into that mindfulness of each one and the mindfulness of what it means to talk about the balance of light and dark, of inner and outer. And that's celebrated so many times throughout the wheel of the year. That's kind of like that touchstone to bring us back to that mindfulness again and again and again. So we can check in with ourselves. How am I doing? Am I balancing my work and my life? Am I balancing taking care of myself and taking care of others? And really giving us that opportunity to tune into that mindfulness of the season in many different ways. And I think the beauty of practicing witchcraft is that each one of these celebrations can be as simple or as elaborate as you wish. You might celebrate Mabon with a simple family meal. You might celebrate summer solstice with a bonfire in your backyard with friends and make it as simple as that. Or if you want to be elaborate, you can. And that's kind of the beauty of the inclusivity of what it means to be a modern witch. There's no shoulding, there's no you have to do this, there's no you must practice in this way. And I think that's also a really great time for me to point out that many times people will mistake being a witch and associating that with being Wicca or Wiccan. And those are two very different practices. Wicca in and of itself is a very organized religion, and there are lots of different steps that you have to take in order to practice that. Whereas witchcraft and paganism is much more fluid, and you can do this or you don't have to do this, and you can insert here and take out there, and really just kind of flow with your own energy along with the cycle of the wheel of the year. And that's really a very thematic when we talk about witchcraft is cycles. So you've got the different Sabbats and the cycles of the wheel of the year. And then within that, you've got the moon cycles and your own personal cycles that go along with that. So in my opinion, what it means to be a modern witch is to tune into the energies that are around us in Mother Earth and tune into our own energies and weave those together in order to form our practice in whatever way that means for each one of us. And being open-minded and open-armed to anyone around us within the community and accepting how they practice their traditions in whatever way they see fit and celebrating each other in that way.
That is just so remarkable. I love how individual the practice is, but how community oriented it is as well. And something that occurred to me while you were talking about um, just in the circle of the year and all the cycles that we go through, it it kind of dawned on me that having grown up on a farm and coming from generations of farmers, how it connects me to like my ancestral community in the same way. So it takes me back generations as well as gives me this lateral kind of move. And that's really incredible. But you've
Yeah.
gone above and beyond to create a community of practitioners over the course of specifically a pandemic. Do you want to talk a little bit about like how you keep people connected right now and what that
Sure. I would love to talk about that because the reality is that I never had a plan. I never have a plan, even as it stands now. I just kind of go with the flow because it's too stressful to do anything else. So March 2020, the pandemic really kind of settled in here in the Midwest and in Iowa specifically, and I made the decision to close the doors of the shop to foot traffic. And previous to that, we were having 4 and 5 workshops a week in person in real life. And we were having weekends where we had palm readers and tarot readers and events that were happening and people gathering together in our space. And so when the doors closed in March, I had no idea what I was going to do. And things kind of grew and evolved and changed. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I did weekly community meditations every Saturday, just like I had always done for years and years at the Apothecary. And I did those through Facebook Live. And they were wonderful and connected people in an incredible way and gave folks that opportunity of once a week of tuning in with everybody else from across the nation by the time we finished doing those to be able to settle into that just calm space of breath work. And I did that as long as I could because honestly, the pandemic took a toll on me too, personally. And so when I found myself not in a good space to provide that meditation and that calmness for folks, I had to step back and step away from that. And so then we opened up into what else can we do to keep the community connected? Because that was my main focus. As a business owner, my priority was to have enough sales to keep afloat. Yes, but my main focus was how do we keep this incredible community together that we've been working so hard at threading through this time when we can't be together in person. And so I created our virtual events and I made all of those free because folks were losing their jobs and didn't know how they were going to pay rent and feed their children and all of these types of things as we kind of work through this pandemic. And so all of the Apothecary virtual events are free. And so when I looked at how to create that, I thought about the main things that people loved to do at the Apothecary. And so it came down to 4 events, and those are offered, and they're still being offered once a week. So we have the Witching Hour, where we talk about all things witchcraft related. We've talked about bibliomancy. We've talked about spell bag creation. This next month in April, we are going to be talking about spell creation. What does that look like? How do I do that? And kind of open this up to this community conversation. So we've got the Witching Hour, and then we've got number nerds. So in my heart of hearts, I'm a numerologist. Meredith, you know this about me. I love numbers so much. And so we created this once a month event that is full to the brim. And this is the one event that we have a month where it's literally people from across the nation. And we're talking about California, Oregon, Florida, New Jersey, Iowa, Illinois, folks that are tuning in for this. And every month we just pick a different topic associated with numerology and we dive in head first. My teacher, Valerie Stillwell, who taught me numerology, joins us for that. And then my friend, Kate, who also studies with Valerie, is there too. So basically it's just 3 numerologists going nuts and diving down the rabbit hole and sharing that information with others on how to use it and how to incorporate it into your life in practical ways. So that's number nerds. And then we have Magical Writers Night, which is incredible. My friend Laura Johnson facilitates this for us. And it's an evening where you can Join us to write about whatever prompts Laura has in mind. And you don't have to identify as a writer. You don't have to be a fiction writer, a nonfiction writer, a poet. You can just want to join in to be in this virtual space with us and join in the prompts, because it's not a writer's night where we are critiquing one another or doing anything, and sharing is optional. So if you write something fantastic that you want to share with everybody, you can. But if you just want to join us to be in the space, that's also awesome as well. And so Magical Writers Night is the third one. And then the final one is Tarot Talk, because you can't really talk about K Apothecary without talking about tarot. It is seeped into every corner and every aspect of the divination that we perform there. And so Tarot Talk happens once a month. And I really have been inviting members of the community to share with us their different types of practices. So we're going to be talking about Lenormand this month. Next month, we're going to be talking about Tarot de Marseille, and we have a special guest coming to join us for that, Meredith's husband. And so Tarot Talk is really just this time where we can come together and talk about how we practice tarot. So these virtual events are less organized than a class or a workshop, and they're more a platform to open up for community conversation, to give us all a space to have a theme to talk about for the hour to 2 hours, to sometimes, when we really get going, 3 hours of conversation, and give people time to gather together in a virtual space in the comfort of their own homes and their jammies and their familiars and their pets and their life, to be able to share and to keep the community connected. And so that's what I did. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And honestly, so many people are like, well, when are we going to have events at the Apothecary again? And when are classes going to start? And when are gatherings going to start? And the answer is, we're doing that slowly. And also, virtual events are not going away. These are definitely going to be a thing, because it's so easy to incorporate into our lives. I mean, even for folks who are here in this area, right? So if an event at the Apothecary starts in real life at 6 p.m. and it ends at 8 p.m. and you live on the far side of Cedar Rapids, by the time the event is over at 8 o'clock and we get done chatting and you get in your car and you drive home, it can be 10 o'clock. But virtually, you can just click the end button and go about your life. And so these are going to continue to be a thing. What we're going to see moving forward on ways that we're keeping the community together is that virtual thread going through everything, and then special events that are going to pop up. So the first one we have is April 9th and 10th, and that is our spring open house, which is the first in-person, in real life event that we've done, which is amazing, beautiful, wonderful, exciting, stressful, scary, and all of the things wrapped into one. So it's going to be kind of low-key, just an open house type of thing for people to come and experience tarot readings in person again, and palm readings in person again. And if you're interested in joining for that, we've taken the pandemic at heart, and we're taking all of those considerations and precautions. So those in-person readings will have a plexi screen between the two folks. And we're also offering scheduling ahead of time. So you can go out to the website now and schedule those, so we don't have massive amounts of people just kind of waiting to see if they can get a reading. So that's going to be our first event. And we're just going to see how it goes from there. And when the time feels right and the science and the pandemic feel loose enough to gather together, we'll plan a new event and just move forward with it that way.
Well, I think something that I would like to acknowledge is that one of the things that I respect so much about you is your ability to build a community and support a community, whether it's advocating for small businesses during a pandemic, or as cities see their growth happen, but keeping us all really safe too, because I know that's been a huge priority for you. And I can't imagine how hard it is to balance those things. And you've done a remarkable job at it. And so I really appreciate how your care and concern for the community is at the heart of everything that you do. And even
Thank
though,
you
like,
so much for that.
well, it's a credit where credit is due kind of thing. So
And you're right, it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to have this business that's my livelihood, that supports myself and so many other people, from a metaphysical perspective and from a spiritual perspective, right? So that needs to keep going. And so this business mind is, what can I do to sustain that? But at the heart of my business is the community. And if I don't have the support of the community, I don't have anything. And so basically all I have to do is maintain this platform of what being a part of the apothecary community means. But all of the other credit really, Meredith, is due to everyone else. Everybody else supporting that, whether it's through shopping at the apothecary, sharing social media, coming to the virtual events, like doing all of those things. The community is really supporting itself, really. And I'm just the caretaker of the space, whether that's the physical space at the shop or virtually the space that we're safely able to gather together. So that's kudos to everyone else.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us what it means to be a modern witch and what K Apothecary means in terms of the community that it creates. Following this interview, I'll make sure that there is your social media, your Instagram, your Facebook, and your website available. And in case you
Mhm.
didn't know, part of what's so magical about this shop is that they have their own like mini bookstore. Would you say something like over 100 titles of books?
Yeah,
Like
it's
librarian approved, right?
yeah, that's my inner librarian, just seeing when I get to select books and things like that. And the titles of books that we choose are focused on that, on the community, on witchcraft practices, on self-care practices, on recipe books and spell books and journals and workbooks and things like that. And so it's an eclectic collection, but also focused at the same time.
So I think that it will be worth your while to check out the apothecary. We'll make sure that you folks out there can stay in touch. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
Thank you. It's so nice it's always nice to spend time with you, no matter where it's at, virtually or in person or otherwise. So thank you for asking me to be here today. And thanks to everybody who tuned in for this. It's something that makes my heart sing, to keep the community together and to keep watching it grow because it's incredible. One of the other ways to stay connected, which I know that you have in your PowerPoint too, is the K Apothecary community newsletter, the community thread. So just to touch on this just quick before we end the conversation here, the newsletter is something that comes physically to your mailbox.
It's such a treat.
And it is 12 pages of witchy, delightful goodness that includes things that are written by magic makers from across the country, who are my friends and dedicated practitioners. And there's always fun things too. There's a word search every month. And there are recipes and spells. And so to sign up for that, you can sign up through the website. And again, just remembering that it's an actual physical newsletter. So you do have to enter your mailing address so that you can be included in that too.
But it's delightful. It's such a nice piece of mail to get in your mailbox. It's like
It's
real.
literally my favorite thing to do. My inner writer is just like, oh, I've got this incredible opportunity to put this joy and fun and all of that together. It's really fun.
And you won't regret getting lavender lemon recipes in your mailbox. They're delicious. We'll say that, right? Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you have the most remarkable rest of your day and all of you out there in library land. From all of us here at the Cedar Rapids Public Library, thanks for watching.
Yay, thanks for having me. Have a good day, everyone.